Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. And I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne, saying, "See, the home of God is among mortals. God will dwell with them. They will be God's peoples, and God themselves will be with them. God will wipe every tear from their eyes. Death will be no more. Mourning and crying and pain will be no more. For the first things have passed away." And the one who was seated on the throne said, "See, I am making all things new." Also he said, "Write this, for these words are trustworthy and true." Then he said to me, "It is done. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. To the thirsty I will give water as a gift from the spring of the water of life." And this is the reading of God. For the people of God, thanks be to God. This week's reflection is called Rapture in Reverse. I chose to take the lectionary verse from Revelation instead of John in the Gospel. The entire book of Revelation, from beginning to end, is a critique of empire, as well as a critique of church relationship directly to that empire. And we don't have to stretch our imaginations very far to understand what harmful empire and what harmful church affiliation to that empire looks like, because we are living in it today. And if you've had experiences like mine, this book is not often spoken about from the pulpit. And the reason for that is because many pastors won't dare to get near it because of its content. If it is spoken of, if it is addressed, the stories of impending doom and Satan's reign and hell and brimstone and rapture are common terms we may have heard. Revelation, preached and disseminated irresponsibly, has been used to invoke fear and exclusion, and this is still happening today. But I want to assure you that this book is actually one of the most prolific and hopeful texts within the entire Christian biblical corpus. Read and taught responsibly, this apocalyptic text contains incredibly important promises to us as children of God and as children living in a liminal space, asking the question, how much longer? As members of the LGBTQ community and as people of color, we live in a space of perpetual liminality. And what is liminal space? What does that mean? And the word liminal comes from the Latin word limen, meaning threshold, any point or place of entering or beginning. A liminal space is the time between what was and what is next. It is a place of transition, of waiting, and uncertainty. It is often a space of discomfort, as we may consistently be asking the question, how long, O Lord? How long must we wait until justice for the oppressed is fully actualized? How long must we wait for pain and suffering and violence to end? What this pericope from Revelation is telling us is that if we seek satisfaction, flourishing, or glory by modes constructed from empire, we will always be found wanting. The empire exists, lives, and feeds off of the oppression and suffering of others. This is its purpose. This is how empire ultimately survives. It is a lie to believe that our flourishing can come from these places. We must seek flourishing through loving one another and buttressing our community of faith, reminding each other of the promise of what Jesus means to us and the LGBTQ community. In the Easter narrative that we went through a couple of weeks ago, Jesus defeated death once and for all. In addition to doing this, Jesus has already defeated empire It is finished. And we are waiting and anticipating the time promised for our relief, for our flourishing, and ultimately for the removal of our pain and our suffering. In the Revelation narrative, there is no rapture where God's special elite are caught up into a cloud somewhere and conveniently they're whisked away from danger. No, that's not what happens at all in this text. In fact, it's the reversal of that. This story actually tells us that God comes down to us. The choice of language on the part of the author regarding marriage is not literal, it's symbolic, in that God's new city, the New Jerusalem, where we are promised citizenship already, is adorned and ready to be consummated by God for us as God's children. This is a city where God dwells with us. This is a city where there is no empire. There is no suffering, no oppression, no tears, and no pain. This portion of Revelation reveals God's desire for God's children to fully flourish and be with God in perpetuity. It is literally heaven on earth. This new space stands in stark contrast to our current conditions here on earth under empire and advanced by certain church denominations which gladly support the empire and falsely claim its link to Christianity and falsely claiming its link to God's will and purpose. What empire and these church denominations ignore is that this revelatory vision, empire is completely removed from it. There is no temple. There is no place of worship because God himself is the temple, residing with us, with humanity, and there are no closed gates. There's no exclusion. When the author says that there is no sea in the text, the author is referring to chaos. Not the literal sea, not the literal ocean. The sea represents chaos in the Hebrew Bible. And just as God is victorious over chaos in creation, God is also victorious over the chaos of human oppression caused by empire. We do not await or anticipate destruction, which some other people claiming to be Christians do. That is not what is happening in this text at all. What happens is transformation. We anticipate the transformation of a world filled with human oppression into a new earth where the culture of empire is no longer. Where the culture of empire is replaced with the culture of human flourishing, peace, and love. The boundaries fixed between heaven and earth are completely removed, as well as everything that prevents human flourishing with God's presence attached to it. And while we wait for this, Jesus tells us to love one another, to even love our enemies. And doing this gives us some semblance of heaven present here on earth in the interim while we wait. This is our task while we wait. Let us move forward then in doing this act that repels empire. Let us hold each other up and lift one another up because empire will try to tear us apart. Resistance of empire is an act of holy worship unto God. And may God bless all of our acts of resistance this week and in the upcoming weeks, as in community, as LGBTQ folks and children of God, as we anticipate the arrival of our new heaven and new earth. Amen.